Welcome, everybody. I am Carmen DeValis, and I am founder of Doggies for Dementia. And we are a nonprofit located in Texas. However, our work goes national and even beyond now, which I'm super excited about. And we use photography to help raise awareness and to educate the public as well as caregivers about issues related to dementia. Our program, Experts Dig In with Doggies for Dementia, yes, we planned it that way, digging in, is all about talking with experts around the world about dementia and what can we learn. And some experts are family members, family caregivers, others are professionals. And today I am delighted to have Catherine Campbell with us. Catherine is the executive director of Alzheimer's Texas. And yes, we're in Texas, but their reach is far beyond Texas. And I'm really excited about that. And to talk about what it's like for people earlier on in the diagnosis when they're still aware about what's happening and how they're managing. So welcome, Catherine. And
thank you, Carmen.
Get my rah-rah.
I like that. I was an athlete in high school and college, so I support that.
Oh, good. There will be no jumps or splits, though, just this. So welcome. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about Alzheimer's Texas and your journey with them.
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here with you and share a little bit about Alzheimer's Texas. So my name is Catherine Campbell. I'm the executive director, and we are on a mission to support and provide help to individuals with Alzheimer's, their caregivers, and families. So we are in Texas, as Carmen mentioned, but with COVID, we have expanded our reach to international and national entities. So we definitely want to help anyone that gives us a call. So yes, so we are essentially a nonprofit organization that provides this help and support. Now you're probably asking how and why do we do that? We provide care consultations. And I kind of want to share a little bit of an impactful story because I started March 9th, just in time for a global pandemic, which turned all of our worlds upside down. And we've had to reimagine how we operate. But one of the beautiful stories that I wanted to share with you all was a care consultation. So a friend of a man here in Texas came into our office before we had to shut down here in Austin, and they needed help. They didn't know where to go. And that is often the case for situations for caregivers and family members when a diagnosis happens. And when you are faced with something you know nothing about, it's hard, it's challenging, and it is a long journey and road, but just know that we are there to support you and you can call us. So this is the case of a man who needed that help, and his friend needed us. So he came into our office and just needed resources, needed advice. And our program director, Shannon Johnson-Quaife, was able to provide him books and caregiver handbooks and neurologists and list of information that we've now turned online to a dashboard. But we're there when you don't know where to turn. And we want to be that light and sunshine for individuals like yourselves and other individuals that you may know might have a diagnosis. And to take that to the next step, I wanted to follow up with this individual because we care, right? We care about our caregivers. We care about the individuals with Alzheimer's or dementia. So I actually made a socially distant visit with him yesterday and followed up with him to see how he was doing. So 9 months have passed, and it was phenomenal to see his growth and kind of a beautiful intersection of a man living alone who doesn't have family in Texas, and through community, through the relationships they built in the past, a young man was able and available to serve as his caregiver. And when I went out there to their property, it was so stunning to see how they executed what was provided in Untangled book to provide a structure, to provide a schedule for this man who literally said, this man changed my life. And that's what we do. We want to change and impact lives by providing that help and those resources to make the journey a little less daunting. So that might have been a long answer to your question, Carmen, but
Oh no, what a beautiful story. So he came to you, say, I don't know what to do. I don't know. I've been diagnosed. I live alone. I can't, I just can imagine how scary that must be. You know, he's wondering, do I need someone to help me? Am I okay on my own? And we all know with dementia, there can be judgment issues too, right? So who does he ask that? Am I okay on my own? And then what about the future? It's, well, nobody knows the future. And how do you get prepared for that? And what a frightening thing to go through on top of a diagnosis of dementia, as if that isn't bad enough and challenging enough. Is what now?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I love a happy ending, or a happy turn in the story, that someone with a big heart who knew him before stepped up to love him and care for him.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And while we didn't necessarily make that connection, we were able to provide the resources so that they both could help understand a little bit more about the dementia journey and what communication tips need to happen. They mentioned some of the arguments that they've had and how this caregiver was able to diffuse the situation based on the tips that our program director provided and these books. And so that is what we want to continue doing. Is we don't know what to do, come to us. We want to help shine some light on the right path to take and the options available.
That's so wonderful. I traveled with a friend of mine who has Alzheimer's, a mix in vascular, and in our travels, I was somewhat the caregiver then, or the care partner, and there were times where things were just so smooth, and there were other times, and it would surprise me because then there would be a statement or a comment because he didn't have a lot of the recent memories to fall back on. And he'd be like, why didn't you? You said you would, and you didn't. And be like, and even as a professional, I mean, this was my world in dementia care as a nurse practitioner. And I knew, but then in real life, when it happens and you're just kind of like, okay, the response needed to be what is the most appropriate. And it's different from person to person and even from time to time. And so I wish there was a handbook that just was perfect for everybody, but there's no such thing, because everyone's unique with their dementia journey, and every caregiver, God bless them, they really become rather invisible in their world, because the focus is and needs to be on the person that they're caring for, and they're just kind of
Right.
and then there's resources and resources in other people. And so listen, I want to go back to something else you said. You started in March, so great timing there, Catherine. COVID. Yeah, I had some major disruptions right at the time of COVID also. And I'm like, what the heck, is if COVID isn't enough? But I imagine that left you with some program that was in place, things that were in place and were working great, that needed some changes to accommodate the virtual world. And because people continue to be diagnosed with dementia, caregivers continue to need help. That didn't stop, right? In fact, it upped the game considerably.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I think we all were faced in a uniform way with challenges that we never envisioned. And I like to say that even though I started at a very interesting and challenging time, it was more or less an opportunity to reimagine how we operate. And there's so many organizations out there that provide help and services. And in my mind, and taking on this new role, it was a matter of asking ourselves the question, what can we do now? What And we transitioned all of our programs and education to virtual online classes, but being the type of person and leader that I want to be, I wanted to say, what else can we do now? And one of the examples there was the issue of social isolation, and saw an article in Tennessee where a community had built these visitation stations, if you will. They are made out of plywood and plexiglass, and knowing that the constituents that we serve are completely isolated in a lot of forms and fashions, particularly in assisted living facilities, memory care facilities, we wanted to help. And we decided to partner with some local entities, the American Institute of Architecture, Workforce Solutions, and Texas Mutual Insurance, to make this a community partnership, but also an intergenerational project to help build and replicate these visitation stations, because we don't know how long this is going to last. And the current situation right now, it is daunting, but I want to positively say it's been a phenomenal project. The students are wrapping them up. We're going to go pick them up and deliver them to rural Texas communities. And even better news, we applied for the Alzheimer's Foundation of America Brodsky Innovation Award, and we were the national winner. So now we have $25,000.
You know that? Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh, and what important work. What
Yes.
important work. I wanted to say something about the isolation. I think it was always a problem because families, and it took me somewhat by surprise, because even in the clinic, I didn't hear a lot about that. And people later told me they were afraid that I would tell them, you need to look for placement, or like they felt like the shame associated with not doing a great job, when inherent in caregiving is that and for the person with dementia is that isolation. And they told me how the two phrases they heard over and over just left them feeling so alone. And it was that, I want to remember them the way they were, and well, I don't know what to say, so I think it's better that I don't come around. And just heartbreaking. And so that then on top of COVID, left and where it wasn't even safe to leave the home to take your loved one to the grocery store or out of the house at all. And then God bless the families that have loved ones in long-term care. We've done several interviews here and created some short documentaries of how that's been. And so hearing your solution to to this, and what y'all are able to do, is phenomenal, because the hope then is that others see it and say, yeah, we got to do that. We got to do that here too. And I believe when you put those out on actually put those to use, you need a photographer there to photograph that
Yes.
joy.
Well, luckily I know who to call.
Yes, please, because it is that. Is I have talked to so many families just heartbroken, and they're watching their loved one decline from the window and can't hold their hands and can't be there, and don't know what to do themselves, and trying to think, is it better to locate them home or to stay there? And it's a national, and it is national. I belong to some groups from all over the country. it's a national serious dilemma. And so any
Mhm.
solution that can come close to helping with that, I think just needs to be applauded big time. And as families seek that designation as essential caregivers themselves
Mhm.
to be there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, right. And another story, talking to another family that we helped before COVID, sometimes dealing with the situation as hard as Alzheimer's or dementia is, it's a crisis every day. And with COVID, it has amplified and brought on new challenges. But again, there, I I want to be like what Maya Angelou said, be a rainbow in somebody's cloud.
Mm,
And by recognizing social isolation is a serious and detrimental cause of death, more so than smoking.
sure
And
is.
we're seeing the statistics and data showing that our senior aging citizens, it is a serious, serious issue. And we want to be a part of the solution. So we're happy to
Yeah.
do that.
I really applaud that, and you're absolutely right in that. And I knew knowing that before, and then hearing families speak, and I've been to a few rallies where they're trying to raise awareness essentially and say this is our situation, and we need some legal. This needs to be a political protect us and help us with this. And their signs are reading, loneliness is killing my mother, not COVID, and things along that line. And then as other things started to open, like bars and restaurants, and they still couldn't come in and visit. It's like, what? And they're like willing to do just about anything. We'll test, we'll show it our test every day. We'll do whatever it takes. Just let me see my mother, let me see my wife. And in some circumstances, let me see my child. They were adult
Mhm.
children. And definitely this is something that among many things, but this is going to be a huge impact on our country now, and that will trickle down for generations. And what we do now is going to show the next generation on how to treat one another. I mean, it's that serious, right?
Right, right. And one thing I do want to mention, since you brought that up, the other issue that we're addressing in this project is intergenerational education. So this is partnered with several high school students, and we are providing the education about the effect of Alzheimer's and dementia, and hearing the student stories of what they learned, and how there's a stigma, right, around Alzheimer's and dementia in our country. And
Yeah.
this is, again, a topic that hard conversations are hard. And that's another piece to this that I think even changing the rhetoric is important to make it less. And I know we've talked about this too with caregivers and the feeling of shame. I'm not good enough. I don't know if I'm doing the best thing for my mom, my dad, my grandmother, my grandfather. Uh,
Yeah. And they
it
don't know who will understand when they bring that,
right,
who's going to really understand what that's like for them. Yeah.
right. And it starts with education. And what better way to start than in high school to say this. And with Austin being I know this is a national audience, but
Mhm.
we, we have
But
the
we can love our Austin. Okay.
yes, yes,
We
of
can.
course, of course,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, so important because there are even more and more now, like 20 somethings and 30 somethings being the caregivers for their grandparents and or their parents.
mhm,
And the sooner, and also, their family members have dementia and they're wondering, how do I approach, what do I do? And I would say one of the most popular presentations I do is part of this education, because that's our mission with Doggies for Dementia too, is we're raising awareness and all around that. And I will tell the stories because I followed 13 families for a couple years to tell their stories. That's my book here. That's what that's about. And I did that with images and stories. And But when I say what I learned from them as an expert, what I learned by talking to families and being around them, periodically throughout the years, what they have to tell us and teach us is just right there is they're the experts. They're doing it every day and,
Right.
and how they do it. So I love that teenagers are starting to learn more about this, and as it should be. I think we would be in a completely different place now if this conversation happened 10, 20 years ago, as um, it was called different. Even when I first graduated from nursing school, it had a different diagnosis. That was a long time ago, like 1979. And, it's evolved through the way. But the fact that there's a disease that affects the memory and judgment and insight and behaviors is not new. We're just seeing more
Right.
of it, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
so yeah, well, I am delighted to hear what's happening right here in our state and what you've been able to do. I seriously, I'm not completely joking about this. I think you are a hero, and what y'all are doing there, and what you personally too. You started at a really tough time in a couple different ways. Was definitely with the COVID situation. And what do?
Right.
People still need you, and even more. They need you
Right.
even more. And many of the ways you were able to provide information and care, you couldn't do it anymore. So
Right. Right. Well,
bravo.
thank you.
Yeah,
I
bravo.
credit SMU. One of the classes I remember most was crisis communications, and communications is so crucial to what we do and how we communicate with caregivers, how we communicate with our loved ones, and crisis and challenges will come up, and we have to be able to work through them, communicate, and recognize there are resources out there, and the opportunity to solve complex problems throughout this journey.
Right, right. And it definitely. And part of what I think it was probably before we actually started recording, but those of us in the world of caring, which are many, many actually, we start from our hearts. We start from a place of wanting to make a difference and being there. And we learn how to do that from those that are going through it and adapting and it's constant pivot anyway. COVID happens to be the latest, but I think one of the blessings is it brought to light some things that really needed some changing and updating. And what perfect timing. I'm so grateful that you're here because we're talking about education and we're talking about what we're doing. And this is our platform for Doggies for Dementia. And so thank you so much for your input. And I know some of my creative wheels are turning, so I'm sure others will too. And I would love to know then, can people from other states reach out to you to learn more about what you're doing and for that support? Or is what is it, just Texas? Because we are kind of fortunate here in Texas.
Yes, absolutely. I encourage everyone to reach out to us via phone, which is 512-241-0420, or visit our website at www.txalz.org. And like us on Facebook and Instagram. We always post our educational trainings and various programs there. So I encourage you to do that as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. See, Texans do it great, don't we? We
Of
do great.
course.
Yeah. I said I have these so that I talk less, right? But I don't know if that worked. That's my thing. We aim to keep our conversations casual and with important information. And you've not disappointed today. It's been wonderful. So thank you so much. And please, y'all, subscribe to our YouTube channel here. And like Alzheimer's Texas, we are all over social media too. Doggies for Dementias on Instagram and Facebook. I don't do so much on Twitter. And so when you see those posts and stuff, those are me. I'm posting those every day. there is a person behind those, and I get comments from people all over the world, and I love that. Me and Sparky, my dog, we do enjoy those. And so a lot of times it is a person behind that phone call and behind that email, right, Catherine?
Right.
Yeah, and I hear that with you guys too. You're there, and yeah. So thank
We're
you
here
so
to
much.
help.
Thank you. And we'll catch up with you soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Carmen. Bye.